$452 million. Okay, let's just sit with that for a second. That is literally the eye-watering pre-sale figure that put BlockDAG firmly on the map. I mean, to put that into perspective for you, this early-stage crypto project is claiming a war chest that actually rivals the funding of massive established global tech companies. It's huge. But right out of the gate, that immense capital just completely crashes into some incredibly severe allegations from the retail crypto community. While their marketing engine is out there boasting about record-breaking raises, platforms like Trustpilot and Reddit, well, they're flooded with comments exactly like this: scam since day one. It's a super jarring contradiction, and we've absolutely got to unpack it. So, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to rely purely on the data, source documents, and community feedback to impartially untangle the truth behind what is easily one of 2026's most polarizing projects. Basically, are we looking at the next major evolution of blockchain, or is this just an elaborate financial illusion? Here's our roadmap for this one. We'll start with the BlockDAG phenomenon, then we're unpacking the technology, moving into tokenomics and market data, looking closely at the scam allegations and backlash, and finally, what comes next. All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the BlockDAG phenomenon. So, according to their own promotional materials, they haven't just raised that $452 million from regular retail folks, they're actually reporting an $86 million allocation specifically from institutions. And on top of that, they claim to have sold over 18,000 heavy-duty ASIC miners to a user base of literally 2 million people. But the ultimate flex here? Those high-profile sports partnerships with Inter Milan and the BWT Alpine F1 team. This whole setup is clearly designed to project immense legitimacy and just deep, deep pockets. Okay, moving on to Section 2. Let's start unpacking the technology. To really understand BlockDAG, you kind of have to grasp what a DAG actually is. Now, we all know traditional blockchains, like Bitcoin, process blocks sequentially, right? One block follows another in a straight line. If the network gets busy, you wait in line. That's just how it goes. But a directed acyclic graph, or DAG, completely breaks away from that. Instead of a single line, imagine a web where multiple blocks are being created, processed, and confirmed concurrently, like entirely in parallel. Theoretically, this completely removes that single-file bottleneck. So how exactly does BlockDAG claim to solve that infamous blockchain trilemma? Balancing security, scalability, and decentralization. Well, they're presenting a hybrid model. They say they're combining the ironclad security of Bitcoin's proof of work with that DAG web structure to hit speeds of over 10,000 transactions per second. I mean, compare that to Bitcoin's 7. And on top of all that, they claim to be EVM compatible, so developers can just copy and paste their Ethereum apps right onto this new network. Honestly, it's a massively ambitious technological promise. Which brings us to Section 3, tokenomics and market data. Looking at the tokenomics here, we see a really heavy allocation towards miners and pre-sale buyers. Out of a maximum supply of 150 billion coins, exactly half are reserved to incentivize miners over time. Then, another massive chunk, 33.3%, was allocated to that super lengthy pre-sale. Interestingly enough, the core team claims to hold only 1%, which sure looks great on paper, but actually from a market dynamics perspective, this really sets up a situation with potentially massive early sell pressure from all those pre-sale buyers who are just eager to finally cash in. Pulling some recent market data from CoinCheckup, we can see the token is desperately trying to establish a price floor in its early public trading. Right now, the strongest floor, or support level, is sitting down around 0.000154, while the ceiling of resistance kind of caps out near 0.002478. If you're watching the charts, this incredibly tight range is literally the active battleground between those early sellers we just talked about and new speculative buyers coming in. But surprisingly, the data shows a pretty fascinating behavioral quirk. During a recent 39% surge, BDAG actually decoupled entirely from the broader market. It showed a negative correlation with major macro assets like Bitcoin, Nexo, and Dash. So this means while the heavyweights were facing serious headwinds, BDAG was running in the completely opposite direction. It was moving in tandem with smaller niche assets like Canton and Just instead. Really, it's a highly unusual trading footprint for a new Layer 1 network. All right, let's take a sharp pivot now to Section 4. Scam allegations and backlash. So if we look at the timeline of events, it really builds this picture of repeated delays that have, quite frankly, severely eroded community trust. Initially, BlockDAG promised a mainnet launch way back in June of 2025. Well, that got pushed to August. Then, the project basically went silent for months before finally initiating a token generation event in February of 2026, with exchange listings only trickling out in March. And we all know, in the fast-paced world of crypto, multi-month delays with literally millions of dollars of user capital locked up, yeah, that's a surefire way to induce a total panic. And man, that panic has absolutely boiled over. Online forums like Reddit's Crypto Scams community, they are just flooded with these severe allegations. You have users claiming they purchased mining hardware over a year ago that was just never delivered. They're alleging the manufacturers were never paid, the pre-sale money has simply vanished, and they are calling it straight-up retail fraud. And the situation over on Trustpilot? It's equally grim. In a pretty rare move, Trustpilot actually suspended the company's rating entirely because of severe guideline breaches. The platform features all these reports from users claiming that when they connected their wallets post-launch to claim tokens, their balances were just zeroed out. Transaction histories completely disappeared, and even their support accounts were blocked. Just a total nightmare scenario. So for summarizing the investigative reports impartially here, skeptics are really pointing to 5 glaring red flags. 1, those repeated missed deadlines. 2, some very severe allegations from prominent on-chain sleuth ZachXBT claiming the CEO is merely a paid frontman. 3, a massive gap between their marketing claims of 20-plus exchange listings versus actual reality. 4, that complete suspension of their Trustpilot rating. And 5, the widespread reports of inaccessible funds and missing hardware. I mean, wow, it is a heavy list of concerns. So this brings us to Section 5. What comes next? Well, the market is obviously watching eagerly to see how this plays out. The project's roadmap does point to broader, Tier 1 exchange listings on venues like MEXC and Gate.io. And look, if major platforms greenlight the token, it could provide that ultimate validation they need to finally silence the critics. But even if they do get those listings, the network still has to survive that massive looming sell pressure from early pre-sale investors. I mean, these people have been waiting 2 long years to finally hit the sell button. So, based on the starkly contrasting evidence we've explored today, the ultimate fate of BlockDAG really just remains a paradox. On one side, you have $500 million raised, high-level sports partnerships, and this hybrid technology that promises to solve blockchain's biggest hurdles. But then, on the exact opposite side, you have this trail of broken deadlines, furious investors, and incredibly severe allegations of fraud from industry watchdogs. So as Q2 2026 unfolds, we kind of have to ask ourselves, are we witnessing the messy birth of a revolutionary Layer 1 giant? Or is this just the most elaborate illusion in crypto history? What do you think?